What if I told you that in the last 5 weeks, one island, 166 square miles, 280,000 people launched its first national payment system, built and deployed a homegrown AI app to hold its own government accountable, opened its first onion drying facility and put $5 million into vertical farming, put 19 offshore oil blocks out to international tender with a potential 13 billion barrels of oil sitting beneath those waters, and sent its prime minister to stand at the door of no return in Accra, Ghana, on June 19th, where delegates from more than 80 countries formally adopted a 19-point global framework demanding reparatory justice for the transatlantic slave trade. All of that, 5 weeks, one island. What would you call that? Hi, I'm Zana Monique and I'm the creator of Bajans.net. Welcome and thank you so much for being here. Let me call it WeBay's story. Now, before we get into each of these things, I want you to hold on to something because there is something running through all 5 of them and it is the exact same thread, right? Barbados was built to be dependent. Okay, that was the design. Dependent on imported food, dependent on financial systems, controlled elsewhere, dependent on imported energy and deliberately cut off and systematically cut off from the continent that its people came from. And that was not by accident. That was the colonial architecture. Now, hold on tight. What you are about to see is what a small sovereign nation looks like when it decides to answer that architecture, pillar by pillar. So let me get into that. Let me start with the 2 that made the least noise but affects every single Bajan every single day. BiMPay. June 12, 2026, the Central Bank of Barbados launched BiMPay, Barbados' first national instant payment system. Money sent and received in under 10 seconds. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no bank hours, no waiting, under 10 seconds. Now, let me put that into a little more context, right? For generations, Bajans, whether at home or in the diaspora, have been routing money through systems that were not built for us, not owned by us, and certainly not accountable to us. That changes right now, this month. That is what a national payment infrastructure looks like. And then 3 days before that, June 9th, PM Mottley stood up at a Lara court and launched something called Pearly. Now, Pearly is a locally built app, right? Built right in Barbados by a Bajan technology company called Touchstar Group. And here is what it does, right? You just open it, you describe a problem, a pothole, a water shortage, waste that hasn't been collected, right? You know the normal things that Bajans every single day go contend with back in Barbados. The app uses your location and your photos and automatically routes your report to the correct government agency out of more than 150 government entities on the island. Not you calling the wrong ministry, not you holding on for 45 minutes or 45 hours it feel like. The app does the routing under 30 seconds, and then it tracks your report from submission to resolution. And if the relevant department misses its deadline, the platform then escalates automatically to senior management. When you think about it, you know what that is? That is a citizen holding the government to account without needing a lawyer, without needing a journalist, a connection, an intermediary, nothing so. In Barbados, built by Bajan software engineers. PM Mottley called this a blending of culture and technology. I like that. But here's the thing, digital sovereignty means absolutely nothing if you can't feed yourself, right? And Barbados has been food import dependent for a very long time. And that is not criticism. It is in fact the legacy of an economy that was structurally designed to produce one crop for export and buy everything else from the outside. Sugar out, every single thing else in. That was the design. May the 21st, 2026, the Barbados Agricultural Society launched the Onion Escalation Project, the island's first dedicated onion drying and chilling facility at BADMC Fair Valley in Christchurch, using the Omnivent system. Year-round onion production, reduced post-harvest losses, less important, what we can grow ourselves. And the 2025 to 2026 national budget has made provisions for $5 million to be allocated to farmers to access indoor vertical farms to, in fact, grow leafy green vegetables. $5 million in Barbados for vertical farms. Now, I need to be precise here because precision is what this archive needs. This is not, by any stretch of the imagination, food sovereignty achieved. However, it is food sovereignty begun. These are the very first real structural steps. From the soil up, Barbados seems to be finally beginning to answer the dependency that was built into it. Now, let me tell you something that I genuinely think more people should be talking about, right? June the 2nd, 2026, Barbados launched its 2026 Offshore Petroleum Direct Negotiations, opening 19 offshore blocks to international exploration companies. 62,643 square kilometers of acreage, 3 brand new ultra deep water blocks, Windmill, Landship, and Culpeper. The Oyston block, previously held back, is now on the table. And the number that made the international energy prices stop? Technical assessments based on 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional seismic surveys suggests that Barbados could have upwards of 13 billion barrels of oil in place and 43 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. Now, hear me when I say this, right? Because obviously the accuracy here is non-negotiable. These are not proven resources, all right? So don't start flying up. It's not drilled, not confirmed, but this is what the seismic surveys indicate is potentially there. Fingers crossed. Director of Natural Resources Jamar White used the word potential. Acting Prime Minister Kerry Simmons used the word potential. But I want you to understand the scale of what potential actually means here. Now, hold on a sec, because I'm real hot in the UK and I'm suffering. And I know that one in Barbados probably think that, yeah, no, this heat different. So I got my fan here for a minute. So wait a second. This is so hot. All right, let me carry on. Guyana's Starbuck block, the oil discovery that transformed Guyana's entire economy, that turned a country around in less than a decade, holds around 11 billion barrels of proven oil equivalent. Hearing that? And it is in production right now. Barbados' potential seismic estimate is larger than that if drilling confirms it. And Barbados has had oil since the 1800s. In case you didn't realize, hand-dug pits in the 18th century. The first machine-drilled well came in 1896. The National Oil Company was formed in 1982. This island has always had a relationship with petroleum. What is new is the offshore scale and what a government is now prepared to do with that. The pre-qualification window for the 19 new blocks runs until September the 1st of this year, 2026. Direct negotiations are already open. If this is the kind of analysis that you want more of, not the headlines, but history and context, not just what happened, but what it actually means for us, then you belong in our members-only community. The link is on the screen right now, is in the descriptions below. It's all down here, so come in. Welcome in advance. June the 19th, 2026 was Juneteenth. Prime Minister Mottley stood outside Osu Castle in Accra, Ghana. Now, for those of you who don't know, Osu Castle is a slave castle, one of the principal departure points on the coast of West Africa from which enslaved Africans were loaded onto ships bound for the Middle Passage. It has a door, the door of no return. When our ancestors walked through that door, the continent they came from was supposed to be gone from them forever, you know. That was the design. That was for sure the intention. On Juneteenth, the day in 1865, when enslaved people in Galveston, Texas in the US were finally informed that they were free, 2.5 years after Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. On that same day, with delegates from more than 80 countries gathered in Accra, a 19-point global framework for reparatory justice was formally adopted. And I want you to hear what is in this framework. A formal call for all state and non-state institutions, all of them, to offer full formal and unconditional apologies as a foundational step towards reconciliation and reparatory justice, fair and adequate compensation for Africans and people of African descent, the return of cultural property, human remains, archives, and heritage to their countries of origin, multilateral debt relief to address the lasting socio-economic impact of enslavement. And PM Mottley, the Prime Minister of Barbados, announced a revision of CARICOM's 10-point reparation plan, revised specifically to account for the disproportionate impact of slavery on girls and women. Now, this is not a footnote. That is the Prime Minister standing at the door of no return and insisting that the full weight of what was done is counted, every single last bit of it. You know, when I think about our ancestors walking through that door, I think about everything that was taken from them. And every time I watch anything to do with that, I cry. I think about our ancestors' names, their land, their languages, their children. And I think about a Bajan prime minister walking back through that door. You know how powerful and impactful that is, regardless of what you may think about anybody and all that sort of thing. That is something else. The Prime Minister of Barbados was able to walk through that door, not by the middle passage, not in chains, but standing there in the full authority of a sovereign nation, demanding an accounting. That happened just a few days ago. Let me know your thoughts on that one. But that's powerful. Now I want to ask one of something, and I want you to really sit with this one. There are Barbadians all over the world right now. In the UK, in Canada, in the US, in New York, in Bristol, in Toronto, all about the place. There are Barbadians who left, or whose parents had left, or whose grandparents left because home was not enough at the time. Because there was not enough work, there wasn't enough infrastructure, not enough to stay for. That was a big reality. I know I live it, right? I am living it right now in the United Kingdom. But just take a look at what the record is beginning to show now in 2026. This is something pivotal. A national payment system, a civic accountability app built by Bajan engineers, an onion project, and vertical farms working towards food sovereignty, 19 offshore blocks that could, cross all your fingers, your toes, and everything, hold more oil than even Guyana. And a prime minister standing on the door of no return on Juneteenth, demanding the world answer for what it did to our people. Is this the juncture? Is this the moment when the question shifts a bit? Not why did we leave? Because we kind of know all the reasons why people would have left. But what does going home, back home, mean now? Because even in the face of everything, and you may kick off or what, home is actually beginning to rise, you know. Slowly, there are things that are happening that have never happened before. Imperfectly, yes. And there is still so much to be done. But things are changing. Barbados is rising. Now, I don't have all the answers, so don't come for me. I am just saying what it is that I see out there and I research. I'm still working some of these answers out myself and trying to figure out what on earth going on. However, what I know is this. Bajans have built this. Bajans have kept the culture alive, have sent the money home, told the children who they were and who they are now. Bajans who are thinking of going back home, all the way out there in the diaspora. How many are wanna thinking about going back home? Let me know in the comment section. I would love to have a chat about this. But all of we are a big part of this Baj story too. Wherever we are, whether it be on the rock or across the diaspora, we are a big part of what Barbados is becoming. And you know what? I genuinely hope that we will all rise together, every single last Bajan, whether at home and abroad. No matter where we are on this planet, we are a big part of this Baj story. This is we. The research fact sheet for this episode, all sources, all dates, and all verified figures is linked right in the description below. Go and download them, share them, teach with them and all. Free. And remember, comment, like, and share, do all the things that you know that you gotta do in order to make sure everybody know that Barbados is on the rise. Yeah, remember that. Let we keep hope alive. Let we do this one together. And while you're considering that, don't forget to check out this video right here. So